Hello, welcome to Beyond the Boundary. My name is Josh. It's fantastic to have you on the show again. It's round 8 this week. I've got Nick, as always, to my right. How are you, Nick?
Yeah, I'm great. Buys this week. Looking forward to it.
I hate it, to be honest.
You hate it?
And Vinay, to my left. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm with you, Josh. I hate the buys. I want more footy.
Yeah, six games around for 3 weeks. I don't like it. I hate it. Anyway, boys, jumping into our tips straight away. You and I got 7 this week.
We did.
Vinay decided to tip his own West Coast Eagles with those rose-coloured glasses on.
He's dropped one.
He has?
Bit of bias creeping in there, Vinay, maybe.
Bias? Come on. We weren't completely blown away.
I'm kidding. It's all good.
I've tipped against the Eagles.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. But Nick's still out on a 3-point lead.
I don't get it.
No, neither do I.
I actually do not get it.
We'll get him.
I'll tell you what, the view from up here, guys, is absolutely brilliant. It's don't catch up anytime soon.
Wobble, wobble, wobble. We are going to go through the 6 games this week, but there's one team where we won't be talking about today because they do have the bye, and that's Collingwood.
Yep.
And we thought we should mention that Tom Langdon has finally got his Rising Star nomination. He's played every game this year, averaging just over 19 possessions a game.
He's come from nowhere, and he's been absolutely brilliant at every game.
He's taken Heath Shaw's role from Collingwood. He's played every game this year. He got 23 disposals, 10 of those contested, 8 marks and 91% efficiency against Carlton on the weekend. So congratulations to Tom Langdon.
We also thought we'd take a quick look at the ladder, seeing as there's quite a few teams not playing this week. Just go through where teams are at and what it's looking at this stage.
Absolutely. The Hawks are nice and pretty on top after the absolute mauling and percentage booster they got on the weekend against St. Kilda. I think they jumped something like 26%.
It was a huge win, 145 points.
Huge win. I mean, we don't like seeing that in our game, but unfortunately it happens.
I don't mind it.
But yeah, it's good to see the Hawks up there again. Port Adelaide in second position.
Very nice.
They'll take on Fremantle this week at Adelaide Oval. We'll get into that shortly.
My boys Geelong in third position, just coming along nicely with 6-1.
And Collingwood, Vinay, in fourth position.
I'm not going to say wobble just yet.
I think you just did. I think it's too late.
No. I'm not going to reassert the fact that I picked them to be in the top 4 and that you two didn't.
Third, Vinay picked them for third.
It's only been 7 rounds, so don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. You know, the 8 could look different. Probably will look a little bit different come the end of the year. So wait and see, I guess.
Yep.
The biggest surprise, I think, is the Gold Coast Suns in at 5th position. They have got, I am pretty sure, Melbourne and St. Kilda after the bye.
And then Brisbane, I believe.
And no, they've already played them. They've already Q-Clash.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah. And
I know they've got
demoralised them.
Average team after those two, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah,
they've got an easy run coming up.
Looking very pretty. Fremantle in 6th. They got an ugly win on the weekend, but got the win they needed. They had a poor couple of weeks, so got the win they needed. Sydney's just starting to rise in 7th position. Back. The most frustrating team in the competition, in my opinion. North Melbourne sitting...
Still have not get a correct tip related to North Melbourne this year. It's ridiculous.
You and I joked about tipping Gold Coast last week too as well. Wish we had done that.
Turn it up, North Melbourne.
It's just... It was always brewing, wasn't it, Gold Coast to cause some kind of a massive upset like this. They were doing them at Metricon. It was only a matter of time before they started doing it in Victoria as well.
All credit to the Gold Coast Suns, but I'm absolutely spewing that North Melbourne's not playing this week because there may have been a return of the Rickard roast. There may have been a return.
9th position, it's Vinay's West Coast. Slipped out of the 8 with 4 straight losses, is it?
It is 4 straight losses, yes.
To be honest, I don't think West Coast have really stamped themselves as a real finals contender at the moment. Wins over St. Kilda, Western Bulldogs and Melbourne have all been good, but, you know, they've lost. It's not that they haven't looked like a final side. A lot of, you know, footy analysts and commentators thought the game against Port Adelaide was a finals game in terms of the intensity that both sides showed. But West Coast inaccuracy, we'll get into that more later, but has been absolutely horrendous. In 3 weeks, they've had quarters where they've kicked 2-5, 1-8, and 1-8 again.
10th position, it's Josh's Essendon. You boys are both out of the 8 with you teams you following there. Chase.
Yeah, I'm confident we can bounce back. We got, I won't say an easy run, but we got a couple of games that we probably should win coming up. But no game is ever easy. We've learnt that already this season. But it's good to get a win on the weekend. Wasn't pretty. There were a lot of games on the weekend that weren't pretty. But yeah, we'll get, as we keep saying, we'll get into that shortly.
Speaking of not pretty, Adelaide down in 11th. What's going on there?
Wowee. Well, again, all credit to the Demons on the weekend. but they were atrocious, Adelaide. They really, really need Taylor Walker back. He's kicked 7 goals in 2 games in the SANFL. He'll be back after the bye. I'm very confident in saying that.
I don't like to say that it's hard to watch a team play sometimes, but having watched this game, it was actually, at certain points, it was difficult to watch Adelaide play. Just the way that they were playing. Brenton Sanderson actually turned away with I think there was a minute to go.
Yeah.
He was on the boundary line. He actually turned away.
I think some Adelaide fans turned away and got first train home as well.
Plenty of Adelaide fans were leaving the ground.
10 points the difference. You're getting seat and going home.
I think it was just the fact that Adelaide were just run into the dirt by a harder working, more spirited, passionate Melbourne outfit that really wanted the win, led by that man. We'll tell you who he is a little later, but it was a really, really poor game for Adelaide. In
12th and 13th, we've got St Kilda and Richmond. I think it's sort of a tale of two sides there. One that's performing sort of above their weight at some points this season, and Richmond performing well below what we all expected them to be.
I think we'll see in the next couple of weeks St Kilda's depth really tested.
Yep.
I know Sandringham, I watched them yesterday, the team that St Kilda's affiliated with in the VFL. They're undefeated at the moment, so they've got some very good depth there. I'm pretty confident Aaron Sipos will come in this week. He had an absolute blinder last week, so yesterday I should say.
Yep.
Richmond, they're 2-5. They've got a tough road to come back from 2-5. It's always tough, but confident they can bounce back and still mount a challenge.
St Kilda's depth you mentioned, Josh, they're being tested, but they're also going down. They're just being, Eli Templeton, poor kid, he looked really, really good, mind you. He was taken in the the rookie draft, missed out in the actual draft, and he really stamped himself as an up-and-coming small forward.
Yep.
Went down with a fractured arm or a broken arm, I think. Then Luke Dunstan, prize draft pick, he got concussed at training. So and now Tom Hickey's gone for 8 to 10 weeks. So a lot of their kids are, trying their hearts out, but just luck's not going very far for the Saints at the moment.
Not good for them. 14th and 15th, we have GWS and the Western Bulldogs. They've had some good patches, but struggling just at the minute. Both sides are.
Yeah. GWS, they're more competitive this year, which is what we all expected. They're not getting belted every single game. There'll be a couple of games this year where they will, but so far they've been very, very good to their standards.
It's great to see them keeping up with teams like Port Adelaide, who are right up the top of the ladder at the moment, and really actually challenging them right in the game. I think they got within 4 goals towards the end of the game there and actually made Port Adelaide sort of win it.
Yep.
The
Bulldogs, a bit of an up and down side at the moment. They make you earn your win. I don't think there's been a side this year that's beaten them comprehensively, apart from probably the first 2 games.
Yeah.
But they make you work for the win. They challenge you for 4 quarters. They're very inexperienced and they're a very young side. So a couple of years down the track, they'll be even harder to beat. But they make you earn your footy.
And the bottom 3 we have in 16th Carlton, 17th Melbourne, and on the bottom it's Brisbane. How have we seen these sides?
Carlton were in Sippert on Friday night.
Yep.
Melbourne were fantastic on Saturday. And Brisbane were pretty insipid on Saturday night as well.
I think the Bulldogs, we sort of picked that they'd be the kind of side that would beat a couple of good sides during the year, but they probably just lack that experience or sort of not sure what it is, to be honest. I really, really do rate the Bulldogs, but I think one of the things we really missed out on was their forward line. Their forward line really is struggling at the moment. Luke Dalhouse was prolific on the weekend. For a half-forward flanker / small forward to get that much of the ball and kick goals is impressive. But Stuart Crammer, Bulldog fans, you can really rate him as much as you want. But literally the problem is when you've paid that much money for a forward, he is a forward.
Yep.
I'm getting sick of people saying, oh no, we're using him as a midfielder or whatever this junk is.
He didn't play much midfield on the weekend.
Exactly. So, people that think that, Bulldogs fans, he's a key forward. And in a game against Essendon where the team is lost by less than 2 kicks, and your number 1 key forward has kicked nothing, it's time that you start, really looking at the depth of your problems. So Stuart Crammer is really someone that's been very, very patchy.
We've got Melbourne versus the Bulldogs to talk about later on, so you can go to town on the Bulldogs all you like then. First game of the round, it's St Kilda versus Hawthorn on Friday night.
Sydney.
Brisbane.
Sorry, Sydney versus Hawthorn.
We didn't say anything about Brisbane, boys.
Didn't we?
I said they were insipid on Saturday night.
Is that all we've got to say about Brisbane? All the Brisbane fans
At the moment, yeah.
Tom Rockcliffe.
Tom Rockcliffe's a super player.
Weekly Tom Rockcliffe mentioned. Nick, I was telling him on the way.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, we'll talk about them
He's
coming
having
up.
shoulder surgery, I think.
Who, Tom Rockcliffe?
Yep.
What this week?
Just from carrying the team all the time.
Oh! Ding ding!
I like it. Anyway,
Now we're moving on to Sydney.
can we move on?
Yep.
Sydney it is versus Hawthorn. Friday night at ANZ Stadium. Last time these two teams played, it was Hawthorn by 54 points. Guys, what do we reckon?
It'll be an interesting game, this one.
Oh, yeah.
I think you say that every week.
Huh?
I think you say that every week.
Not
Interesting
every
game, this
week. Not every week.
No, well, this will be a very interesting game.
But will Buddy play? There's a bit of doubt on him.
Knee problems.
Knee problems. I'd love him to play against his former side.
Yep. And we finally got Tippett coming in. Tippett's expected to play. And
Expected to.
And then Buddy's coming in. I heard Tippett today was almost a certainty to play. So
Okay, interesting.
Yep. And then we want to see them playing together, and then here's Buddy coming out with the injury. So
Look, to be honest, I don't want to sound cruel here, but I hope that Buddy doesn't come back.
Oh.
And the only not from injury. Please do not misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm not saying I don't want him to return from injury. I hope his injury goes well and that he gets back to fitness very soon.
Yep.
But the reason I say this, don't misunderstand me, is because Sydney against Brisbane were the free-flowing, attacking Sydney of old. And when I say that, I mean the midfielders were scoring. Josh Kennedy kicked 2, Kieran Jack kicked 2, Jared McVeigh kicked 1. There was no single source of their scores. Everyone was getting in on the act. Yes, it was against Brisbane. Yes, it was. But if you watch the game, you would definitely be able to see that Sydney were back to the way that they used to play. Whether that has something to do with Buddy being in the side, maybe not. But the reason I say that is because a lot of Hawk fans feel that their team plays better when Buddy isn't playing.
I think you always said about Hawthorn, especially later on when all the contract talk was up in the air, that Hawthorn did play better without Buddy and that they were very Buddy conscious in 2012.
Exactly.
And then in 2013, they really assessed that and they went to so many more avenues.
Exactly. That's the exact logic that I'm using here. They've got some, Ben McGlynn's really proven himself this year as a small forward. Brandon Jack, Kieran Jack's younger brother, he was excellent as well. And Adam Goode's leading the charge. I don't think that they have... It's not an issue like the Western Bulldogs. It's not like they don't have enough sources from which they get goals.
Yeah.
So, honestly, like you said, Josh, it might be good to see Buddy play against his old side. But I don't know. I just think Sydney will play better without Buddy Franklin this week.
I really like Josh Kennedy's form at the moment as well.
He's been brilliant. Yep.
He's getting back to that 2012
Yes,
form that he was in their premiership year.
We highlighted a couple of years ago that in their premiership year, it was Jack, Hanbury, Kennedy, those players, McVeigh can throw in as well, who were really performing, coming through the midfield, and it was this brilliant midfield, like we look at with Collingwood with Swan, Pendlebury and Beams. It was just so many guns in that midfield. And early this season, we haven't seen all those players step up, but in recent weeks we really did, and especially when Sydney played Brisbane on the weekend, we really did. We saw all those players right at the top of the stats sheet really turning it on.
Absolutely. Another one I want to touch on before I get to the Hawks is Kieran Jack. Last 2 weeks, I think he's been close to best on ground.
Yep.
He's leading from the front. He's now the captain of that club with Jared McVeigh. I really think he's taken another step in that leadership. It took him time early in the year, as did the whole Sydney side. But I think in the last couple of weeks, Kieran Jack has really lifted his game.
Well, he's learning to break the tag. I think that's one of the most important steps for an up-and-coming midfielder. It's stuff that Stephen Hill, Daniel Hanbury, even Jager O'Meara nowadays, to some extent, they're all learning to do it. And Kieran Jack, I think, has just figured out exactly how to do it. And what he's doing is he's dragging his opponent into the forward line. That's why you're seeing more goals next to Kieran Jack's name. He's taking them into the forward line, making them nervous, making his tagger more accountable than they'd usually be. And like you said, dangerous combination.
It's so vital to have those extra midfielders outside of the best midfielder at the club that can really turn it up and play to their full extent. Because the midfielder will always cop the tag. The best midfielder will always cop the tag, obviously, but it's the players that stand up in their absence. If they are tagged out of the game, like Pendlebury, Swan and Beams have the ability to do with each other at Collingwood, they can really make the huge impact and make the difference in the match.
Yeah.
There's, we'll get on to Hawthorn.
Yep.
There's one player I want to talk about. Two aspects of him.
Okay.
He made his return on the weekend.
Yep.
Ryan Shiltmakers.
Oh, here
he
we
looks
go.
fantastic down forward. And I'm one of very few people that rate him
Yep,
as
you are.
a footballer.
You are.
I think he was unfairly criticised in his early years. He was lean, he was skinny. He took the best defender each week and was learning the trade. I think it was a bit unfair criticism. But he came back this week, kicked 4 goals in his return and looked pretty damn good down forward.
Pretty slick.
He put on a bit of muscle as well.
Yep.
I'm going to start up a little thing that's similar to what Jason Dunstall does on Bounce on
Interesting.
Fox Footy. He hates the dribble kicks.
Oh, no.
You
here we
love
go.
him?
No.
All right, yep. I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
I hate the current haircut most
Thank you.
players
Yep.
are going with.
I was
Yep,
I was
I agree
about
with
to
you.
say, he's
Yep.
seen
What
Michael,
is this little bun on the top of the head?
It's absolutely disgusting.
he's seen Michael Hurley down back for the
Oh,
Bombers.
he's
and
Michael
gone,
Hurley, Ryan
I
Showmakers,
wanna
Josh
play like
Bruce,
Michael
Brody.
Brody Grundy. What is it?
It's absolutely disgusting.
I tell you what,
It
if
is.
Ryan Showmakers keeps playing like that, he
It
can
should
have
be illegal.
whatever bloody haircut he wants.
Nope, I disagree with that.
They're not samurais.
They think they are.
They think they are, but they're not.
Oh, it's
They're horrible.
I tell you what.
Get rid of them.
The Rickard roast here.
Any player that it comes with a haircut like that again, they will cop a roast like that. They are horrible. They're lucky they can play football.
I see you've got a haircut this week. You weren't opting for the little top knot there?
No.
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 Boys, one thing I do want to touch on, samurai-like almost, is the Hawthorn midfield.
Samurai-like.
Absolutely went to town this week.
There's an interesting term.
They're like
Samurai-like.
samurais. They're all like samurais. They're collecting ball at will, and seemingly
Like samurais.
they're keeping the ball away from their opponents. And the reason I say this, a good little stat that I've come upon, 13 Hawthorn players had over 20 disposals on the weekend.
That's massive.
Yep.
And did
Not
you
not
see?
hard against witches' hats.
Pardon?
Not hard against witches' hats.
What I do want to say is that they did that against Fremantle as well, where a majority of the team got over 20 disposals. Matt Suckling again finished with 31 touches. Grant Birchall, Sean Burgoyne added 2 goals to his tally as well. Billy Hartung, Luke Hodge, the usual suspects. Billy Hartung was one, came on a sub for Mitchell and had 26 touches. So, it seems like even the up-and-coming midfielders know exactly how to accumulate absolute truckloads.
And talking
of
about
ball.
spread, they had 15 individual goal kickers on the weekend. That's huge.
Was that what you were doing?
That's what I was doing.
Let me tell you this, Vinay and Nick, if you want to have a guess. How many debutants has Hawthorn played this year?
It'd be Billy Hartung, Mitch Hallahan. Actually, no, Hallahan played one last year.
No, he didn't.
He didn't? Okay,
No.
Mitch Hallahan. No, don't tell me.
Was it Langford's debut?
No, he
played
played one
one
last year.
last
He played
year.
one last year. Hang on, don't tell me.
Hurry it up.
I'm going to go with just those two.
No.
Litherland.
He was their
Litherland.
5th this year. Damn it. 5th this year.
Selgar, maybe.
Okay.
What's that?
The Ruckman?
Segler.
Segler.
No, he played last year, didn't
He
he?
played last
Yeah.
year.
Okay.
There was
Litherland.
Litherland. You've put me on the spot here. I'll
Hallahan.
put myself on the spot here. Litherland,
Hallahan,
Hartung. Who else was there?
I don't know.
Help me out.
Well, we
You're
know
on
that
your
there
own.
was 5 of
There's
them.
been 5.
We know that
There was 5 of
them, yeah.
Yeah, there was
Okay.
5 of them. But Sam Mitchell's going to be out for 8 weeks with a hamstring,
That's a long time.
hamstring tendon. And Brian Lake with a calf for almost a month. So they're 2 pretty big losses. But if any team can cover them, it's Hawthorn.
It's awful, for
Now,
sure.
now, boys, I reckon we spent about 12 minutes on Hawthorn.
Tim O'Brien, he was another one.
Tim O'Brien, correct. He took Buddy's number.
He did.
Who are we tipping?
We're going to get to the last one soon. But
I'll keep thinking of it.
tips. I'm going to say, keeping in mind that we can actually change our tips. So we'll release our final tips on Friday night, just in case something
Jeez, Vinay's
changes.
nervous here. He doesn't back himself.
Derek Wanganeen. There's 5.
Derek Wanganeen, there we go, yep. That's it. That's 5.
Who are you tipping, Vinay?
I'm going to go... all right, I'm going to go Hawthorn by...
Tick tock, tick tock, tick.
He's tipping the draw, guys.
I'm going to go Sydney.
Oh!
It's got to be the
If
first time he's actually turned
If
around.
Buddy Franklin does not play, I'm going to go the Sydney Swans.
But if Barney Franklin's an in, you'll tip Hawthorn.
Correct. I honestly think I watched that full game and I'm telling you, Sydney were back to their premiership form. You think I'm kidding, but I'm not. Their midfielders are all over them. Luke Parker kicked 2, Kennedy kicked 2, Kieran Jack kicked 2, McVeigh kicked 1. It was out of sight. No one could control them. If that happens again this week, that those midfielders go off the chain, and Hawthorn don't really prolifically tag. They've got Will Langford that runs with, but apart from that, they don't really have any major taggers. So,
But $900,000 of yearly salary comes into the side, and you change your tip against that side.
that has nothing. The money has nothing to do with it.
Who are you tipping? We've
I'm
got to
saying
move
that-
on.
I'm saying that Sydney's better without Franklin. I'm tipping Sydney, conditional that Franklin doesn't play by about
Jeez.
10 points.
Who are you tipping?
I'm tipping Hawthorn by 22 points, regardless of whether or not Franklin plays.
I know your boys beat them, and you remind us every single week, but
I do.
it's Hawthorn, Daylight, and the rest.
All right.
Hawthorn are just that class above.
I strongly disagree.
I know you do, but that's the way I see
For
it.
me, Geelong is probably the 9th or 10th best side in the league.
Oh, bloody hell.
Oh, there's a bit of bait.
Bit of fishing over here.
There's a bit of bait. Hawthorn by about 5 goals.
Oh, wow.
I strongly disagree on the
I
daylight.
know you
point
do.
there. We could go all day about it.
Let's head into Port Adelaide and Fremantle.
Speaking of lack of daylight, here's Port Adelaide and Fremantle. Saturday afternoon at Adelaide Oval.
Lack of daylight.
Last time these two teams played,
What does that have to do with
it was Fremantle by 74 points. There is absolutely no daylight between Hawthorn
They're
and
playing in
Port
the
Adelaide.
afternoon. He's saying, speaking of lack of daylight, plenty of daylight over at the Adelaide Oval.
Port Adelaide, they're a very good team.
Yeah, look, at the Adelaide Oval, Port Adelaide have been absolutely indomitable. And a lot of people actually believe that Port could beat Hawthorn if it was at the Adelaide Oval.
Yeah.
People do genuinely believe that, and I'm not totally averse to that. Their side has everything they need. Ali Paddy Carlisle, a couple of years ago, was a bit of a laughing stock. He's actually a very good key defender now. And it's all these players that used to be so-and-so that have just come into their own. And I'm talking about Justin Westhoff. I'm talking about, as I just mentioned, Ali Paddy Carlisle. And, they've just been absolutely brilliant. Jared Polek had 30 touches and 3 goals, albeit against GWS.
He was Brisbane. He was brilliant.
He was Brisbane.
I could hear the Brisbane fans just crying themselves
He is
to
in the
sleep while he
top
was on
20
fire.
in the AFL for inside 50s per game.
Let me ask you something, Vinay.
Yes.
Is he the most improved player in the game?
This year? Or
This year.
This year? Definitely.
Yep.
I think he is. Think about it. This is a kid that struggled to, well, from what I've heard, he had discipline issues at Brisbane. He wasn't so keen of playing. He was obviously a high draft pick. I think he was top 10. But, he had discipline issues. He played very few games.
Pick 7, I think it
Pick
was.
7, there you go. The games that he did play, didn't really do much. He looked to be a poor kick, I hear, from some Brisbane fans. I don't think that's an issue anymore. He's just improved out of sight. He is arguably one of the best outside mids in the game at the moment.
Even this pre-season, Ken Hinkley publicly criticised him and said he needs to work harder.
Yeah.
His standards aren't up. If he wants to play senior football, he's got to lift his game.
Oh, yeah.
And it just seems like I read a comment today from one of the guys in our little Facebook group.
Yep.
That it just seems that Ken Hinkley can get the best out of his players as soon as possible.
Yeah.
You've seen it with Matt White. You've seen it with
You're
Jared
right.
Pollock.
It's a very good point. Yeah.
Chad Wingard.
I'll give you
Justin Westhoff.
I'll give you another example. Jay Schultz.
Jay Schultz.
Playing out of his skin at the moment.
Jay Schultz, how about this? He kicked 6 straight.
6 straight.
Not behind. He had 6 goals and no behinds.
With Gastro. He played with Gastro.
I don't care what anybody says. He is the most accurate kick in the AFL.
He is.
Where did he come from?
He cannot
Richmond.
miss.
Richmond. He never misses a set shot. That's very true. It's either him or Gunston. But
It's very funny. He actually does a Q&A on his little Twitter,
Yep.
at JSchultz28, I think it is. And I asked him the question, did you go to Port Adelaide thinking this was your last chance at senior football?
Yep.
His answer was absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I heard a stat on the weekend. He averaged half a goal per game when he was at Richmond, and he averages over 2 goals per game at Port.
well, he's in the Common Medal race. He's
is.
He's up there.
He's 3 ahead.
He's 3 ahead. He's kicked 6. And, who knows who can hold him. The reason he's so good is he does have a bit of that Nick Riewoldt in him. He works extremely hard. He's very, very tough. He doesn't mind copping a knock to the back of the head if it means he gets a big contested mark.
Yeah, but I think we can't play down this kicking. This is just the best attribute. He can be amazing in any other attribute, but just getting that mark and just going back and slotting
it, he does.
No stutter, no checking the wind, no nothing. He just goes back and he slots that through the big sticks. He does not miss. And if every key forward could just get that set shot routine, it's the simplest part of the game. If they could just get that routine down, the game would be so simple. They'd just kick straight and they'd win the game.
His routine is one of the most unique in the game, actually, when he has a set shot.
He sort of walks back.
He doesn't walk in.
He canters in.
He
sort of
runs
gallops
in from the very beginning.
But I think that's just the simplest one. He just jogs in and he just slots it.
He's really reminiscent of that Carlton player that played last year and then he left this year. He was a very good player. Remember he used to run in? Nick Dygan, I think it was.
Oh, Dargan, okay.
Remember Nick Dygan when he used to take set shots? He used to go back a long way and then just run in and treat it like it was a running goal.
Yep.
I tell you what, Jay Schultz is taking a bit of P155 out of goal kicking at the moment. He is teaching the rest of the competition how to take a set shot.
He is doing extremely well. On the flip side of the coin are the Fremantle Dockers.
They've won the
purple
last
haze.
They've won the last 6 against Port Adelaide.
The haze, they call them. It's a very,
haze.
very foggy. Okay, I'll continue on to the comments. Fremantle, the Dockers, they were very scrappy against West Coast. It was by no means a convincing win.
Yep.
West Coast kicked in that second quarter. Fremantle fell asleep. They let through 9 scoring shots. And West Coast, if they'd converted maybe 3 or 4 of them, the result may have been different. But
Need Jay Schultz down forward for him.
Fremantle, Pavlich was very well contained by Eric McKenzie. Hayden Ballantyne worked his absolute butt off, but he didn't really get that much of an opportunity. The fact that Michael Walters isn't down there is really showing. Chris Mayne, he was all right for a couple of quarters. Matt De Boer lifted after copping a spray from Ross Lyon the week before. So maybe what Josh was speaking about a couple of weeks ago, that discipline might slowly be returning. Nathan Fyfe and Michael Barlow look to be at their best along with David Mundy. So, they're slowly getting back on track. The Fremantle Dockers, they got off to an insane start. Then they sort of slowed down. It's very hard to follow up a start that good. But they're getting around to it. And I think this is a very, very, very good sort of test for them.
Yep.
Over at Adelaide Oval as well.
Absolutely. One other player I want to talk about before we give our tips is Lachie Neale. He was best on ground on the weekend.
Glendinning medal.
Glendinning medal. He got 32 touches, I think it was.
And a goal.
And a goal.
Yep.
I just feel like he's taking that opportunity that's in front of him. He was a sub in last year's grand final.
Yep.
And he's come in this year. He got dropped earlier in the year and was the sub a couple of times as well. But he's got his opportunity the last couple of weeks to play some senior football, permanent game time. And he's taking that opportunity. He was highly talented as a junior, and you can see why. He was best on ground by an absolute mile yesterday against the Eagles. And I just think he's just going to keep developing, and add to Fremantle's depth in the midfield.
Boys, who are we tipping?
Port Adelaide. Adelaide Oval, they're 3 from 3. At Adelaide Oval, we say it every week, that ground is magnificent.
Yep. Best outside of the MCG. It's great.
Yep. Yeah. Port Adelaide by 16 points.
Vinay?
As usual, I'm actually tempted to go the other way here. I think Fremantle,
I'm going to give you 30 seconds.
I think Fremantle sort of took the first step to returning to their old form yesterday. And we know that if they play with the form they did in the first 2 weeks, watch out Port Adelaide. So I think we don't know what to expect from them.
10.
But we do know what to expect from Port Adelaide. So I'm going to tip them by 20 points.
I'll tell you what, at Adelaide Oval, there will be no Adelaide or Port Adelaide fans leaving early from this game. Port Adelaide are going to get it done. They'll get it done by 30 points.
30 points? 5 goals?
That's 5 goals. Well
done,
done.
Vinay.
That's a big
Well,
margin.
that was
He reckons they'll win. I don't reckon they'll win by 5 goals. But
What's our
anyway,
next game,
continuing
Nick?
on.
Brisbane versus Essendon, Saturday afternoon at
A
the Gabba.
blockbuster, mind you.
Last time those two teams met, it was Brisbane by 10 points.
At the Wollongabba.
Vinay, what do you think is going to
That's
happen
the
at the
full name
Gabba?
for the Gabba.
It is. That's a full name.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I think is going to happen.
You tell
I think
me.
2 very mediocre teams are going to play off.
Mediocre.
2 very mediocre teams.
What do you think of the word
are going to
mediocre,
play
Josh?
off? I think Essendon, Jackson Merritt is he's one of the players that, starting to have a breakout year. He's gone down with injury, I believe. He won't play this week.
He's touch and go. He'll be 50-50.
Okay, but there are some important inclusions in line. Tommy Bell-Chambers might be back after 2 stints in the VFL.
Mind you, we've been saying that the last 2
That's
weeks.
true. Paddy Ambrose, Josh tells me
He was one of the better players on the ground yesterday.
All right.
Yes.
So there you go. They've got some inclusions coming back. Marty Gleeson should be back. I think the general soreness claimed him, but I can't see him missing. I think that might have just been, giving the kid a break after playing 6
I think
games
he'll
in a
come back through the VFL though.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, there we go then. So I think Brisbane, they must win this. If they want to play finals, they have to get this done.
Oh, Brisbane.
They're not playing
Essendon,
finals.
Essendon.
Oh, you said
If
Brisbane.
Essendon want, no,
Yeah,
no,
you
I'd
said
be
Brisbane.
worried. I'm saying against Brisbane.
Okay.
If Essendon want to make finals,
There's-
they've got to win this.
There's one player I really want to get your opinion on. Michael Hibberd. What do you think of his game on the weekend?
Michael Hibberd. Okay, this is all cold hard facts. I'm not making any of this up to make him sound
hard
bad.
fact.
I'm not making any of this up. All right. He was involved in I think 6 scoring chains. No. Sorry, it was 3 scoring chains,
Right.
and none of them led to goals. Yep.
Can I stop you right
He-
there? Can I
you
stop?
can't stop me right there.
I can stop you
All
right
right,
there.
go ahead.
2 of those hit up players that were in 30 metres of goal on very easy angles, and both players missed. How is that Michael Hibbert's
Okay.
fault?
Let me continue now.
How is that Michael Hibbert's
Please
fault?
let me continue.
How
Did he pick
is
the
that
wrong
Michael's
option?
Michael Hibberd.
One of them was Paul Chapman.
Michael Hibberd is a run and carry defender, Nick, Josh. And a run and carry midfielder does what, Nick? What is his number 1 priority? What is one of his biggest priorities?
I think inside 50s might be one.
Okay. Michael Hibberd is not in the top 100 AFL footballers for inside 50s. He averages 1 a game. One inside 50 as
Do
a
you want
run
to name
and
some
carry
players
defender.
in the top 30?
Andrew Mackey, Robert Murphy, Shannon Hearn, Michael Johnson, Matthew Suckling. We are seeing a pattern here. They are all run and carry defenders.
I'm hearing run and carry here.
Yep, they're all run and carry defenders, and they're in the top 30. But our man Hibberd, he's nowhere to be. He's not even in the top 100. There are forwards that have more inside 50s than him, and it's not even their role to do
So
that.
forwards should.
Well, why isn't he even in the top 100? He should as well, shouldn't he?
No, because he's a defender.
He shouldn't. He's a run and carry defender.
Yes.
Okay, then he should. I'm done with Michael Hibberd. If he does not pull up his socks this week and deliver something,
That's 2 weeks of Laxman
that's
roast.
2 weeks in a row where he's been extremely lackluster. One inside 50 and one tackle a game is not good enough from a man of the quality of Michael Hibberd. He was excellent last year. I'll give you that. He was brilliant. But this year, he is not doing that well.
Josh Rickard, return a serve.
I can't wait till we get to West Coast and roast Andrew Gaff. I'll tell you that much.
I know Andrew Gaff's a softie. You don't have to tell me that.
Anyway, Essendon.
Essendon, you make some good points. You do. But I think you're being a little bit harsh on Hibberd.
I probably am.
You-
I'll admit that to
Point
the
proven.
viewers out there.
Point proven.
But I did give you stats for what I said, so I'm not...
Yes, but as I said, he hit up two players
Okay.
who missed easy set shots.
And that's not
one
his
of them.
fault.
One of them was Paul Chapman,
Okay.
who would kick 9 times out of 10 the one he missed.
And of course, it's not his fault if the player marks him. Of course not, yes.
So I think you may be a little bit harsh, but I do see where you're coming
Yes.
from.
One inside 50 per game.
Yes, okay, I see where you're coming from.
This has been the Michael
Anyway.
Hibberd show.
Continue.
Anyway, Jake Carlisle
Yes.
copped a lot of flack last week.
Was better.
Was better. He took marks. He led up the ground. He ran around his opponent. That's what he can do. He's a terrific athlete. And I think he would have got confidence out of the game against the Bulldogs on the weekend. I thought it was Joe Danaher's best game for the club on the weekend as well.
So did Bomber.
He got to the contest really well. He brought the ball to ground. He kicked a goal as well, moved well, kept his feet. That's been his biggest problem.
Keeping his feet, the balance,
Early in his career, keeping his feet. And he did that really, really well against the Bulldogs. So I think he'll take a lot of confidence out of that. The three players I want to mention that have been absolutely super this year in defence, especially in the last probably month or so when we've been scored against and a lot of pressure's been on the defence, is Dustin Fletcher.
Oh,
I can't believe some
love
people
that guy.
criticise him.
I cannot believe that people think he's not.
One of them being in our little Facebook group. The other one is Cale Hooker.
Cale Hooker.
He is all Australian material
Definitely.
at the moment.
Definitely.
And the other one is Michael Hurley.
Yes.
Team around
yes.
this week.
Teaming around this week for his game on Stuart Cramery on the weekend.
How's that haircut?
Don't get me started. Do not get me started. But Hurley has been fantastic. And I'll tell you what, right now, they should leave him where he is and do not even consider
Moving him forward.
moving him forward.
When you've got a player like that in defence that's playing like this, they're constantly talking about Carlisle needs to do one for the team and go back, and Hurley needs to come forward in his place. But I think they've got one problem: they don't need to create a new one. They need to leave him where he's dominating at the moment, and they need to fix that other problem,
he's
isolate it,
confident.
and fix it separately.
Hurley is playing his best football that he's played in his career.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And we're 7
Cool.
rounds in.
Well, as a pick number 5, we never really saw the talent that, the draft reflects, but now we're starting to see some of it.
Hurley is settled and he should not move.
Yep.
He's had too much time in his early career where he's been moved forward, back. He's settled in defence. Leave him there. For God's sake, Bomber, leave him
Give
there.
him a chance, yeah.
One more player before we move on to Brisbane. There is another team in this game. Brendan Goddard's influence. He came into the game. He got 22
brilliant.
disposals.
Unbelievable.
Against the Bulldogs.
7 marks or something, a couple of goals.
And you can just see his skills.
Oh,
His skills are immaculate. And he makes us a 5% better side.
he does.
Now the Brisbane Lions
Here we go.
on the weekend
Also known as Tom Rockcliffe. Continue.
they lost by 79 points.
I think it was interesting that Tom Rockcliffe lost by 79 points. He laid... No, but honestly, Brisbane laid 49 tackles. Rockcliffe had 11 of them.
Yeah.
Again, that's almost a fourth of the entire team's tackles. When you've got 21 other guys playing, mathematically, it shouldn't be like that. Mathematically. But Jack Redden was held very, very well. Jack Redden was held very well by Sydney.
Not quite so rad on the weekend.
He didn't have the usual impact that he does. He was held extremely well. The only real, the rookies for Brisbane didn't really play that well. Lewis Taylor.
I think you've been playing too much Supercoach. The young players.
Oh, well, they are rookies. They're still young. Lewis Taylor, Marco Paparone, and...
Paparone kicked 2 on the weekend. I thought he was okay.
Did he kick 2?
He kicked 2.
Okay, well then he was.
He's the only multiple goal scorer.
All right, okay, there we go.
I'd love to get your definition of rookie there, but I think they've got a lot of.
And Tom Cutler was the third one I wanted
They've
to
got a lot of very impressive young players at the moment, but they've just got too many in at once, which is what you see from a side that's rebuilding like Brisbane obviously are. And you can't expect too much for them. You can't expect consistency.
Well, I don't know what to expect. They beat St Kilda and they played quite well. And Dane Zorko was another that I wanted to say was really, really well held. He didn't have his influence that he did the week before. So I really don't know what to expect from Brisbane. Sometimes they come out and play very good football.
But when you see so many young players like that playing in the same team, like so much percentage of the side made up as 18-year-olds, they're still learning their own skills. You can't expect them to have the team structure down pat and to be knocking off the teams at the top of the ladder.
Cool.
So
There's one thing I always say with young sides is that no matter how good these young kids are, they're going to be inconsistent.
Yeah.
They're going to be inconsistent, and that's what concerns me a little bit with this game. You don't know what
can happen.
What Brisbane side is going to turn up. I think we will beat them, but it's just that little thought in the back of my mind that these young kids might say, okay, we were embarrassed last week by Sydney, let's bounce back.
Well, Brisbane was the club that beat Essendon last year, wasn't it?
At Etihad.
So there you go. And another thing was Bulldogs also beat Essendon last year. So I don't know. Like Brisbane is just that team that can show up.
No, they didn't.
Bulldogs beat you guys, didn't they?
No.
I'm sure they did.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, interesting. But Brisbane, they're just that team. They beat Geelong.
Interesting.
They got wins over teams like Geelong. Yeah. So, they're that team that can do absolutely anything when they gel together well. Because they've got everything they need at the moment in terms of, talent. But
sorry,
go on.
I really like Nick Robinson at the moment. He's
Roberts?
coming. Robertson?
Yep.
That's what I said, wasn't it?
Robinson, you said.
Oh, I thought I said Robertson.
Continue.
But anyway, Nick Robertson, I mentioned when Daniel Rich went down with that ACL injury that he was likely to come back into the side.
Yep.
Wobble.
Beat me to it.
But he's been fantastic, I think. He's had a real influence on the side. He's a big-bodied midfielder. He puts his body on the line, wins the contested ball.
Tackles very well.
Tackles very well as well. I think he'll play close to the rest of the season. There might be a couple of games where they'll rest him.
Yep.
But he's had a terrific output as well. Jonathan Brown was a late exclusion from the team to take on Sydney.
I did say to you when he came out, any chance of them coming within 8 to 10 goals was just gone with him out of the side.
It was. We won't mention the comment about Mitch Golby that you made either, but he's 50-50 this week. If he comes back in, he structures them up a little bit. And from recent times, Jonathan Brown doesn't mind playing against the Bombers, especially in the early 2000s when they were in their premiership days. But
we are 14 years on, Josh, but yes, continue.
It's
been 14 years, but
14 years on and it's still premiership days coming up.
Even still, 2010, I think it was, he kicked 8.
He has a goal. Okay, well, there he has a goal at me, but
now we're cutting the margin. Now it's only
2010, I think he kicked 8 against us at Etihad.
Well, Jonathan Brown, he's actually had a decent year. To be honest, he has actually had a decent year. Yeah. So
I reckon we've spent half the show on Essendon Brisbane, boys.
No, we haven't.
Who are we tipping?
We did want this show to go under 35 minutes, didn't we?
Didn't we? Yeah.
That's now 37. We got 3 games to go.
Who are you going to tip, Josh? Who are you going to tip, Joshy boy?
I'll be tipping Essendon. I like our interstate form of recent times. There was a period of time between maybe 2005 to 2011 where our interstate form, no matter who we played, we get beaten.
Yep.
But I think our last 10 interstate trips, we've won 6. So that's improved. We don't play the Gabba very often, I must say. But I'll be tipping us, not all that confidently, surprisingly, but by 22 points.
Vinay?
4-quarter performance, please.
Again, this is going to be subject to Friday. When the teams come out, but I'm going to tip Brisbane here.
Seriously?
Yep. What are you looking at me like that for?
You're going to tip Brisbane?
I'm going to tip Brisbane. But like I
just wasn't expecting it.
He's tipping Brisbane.
I'm tipping Brisbane. But like I said, subject to change. I can change it during the week if the teams do spark my fancy.
Friday at 6 p.m. We'll actually put it up.
It is. No, hang on, guys. The reason I'm saying it is because it is dependent on whether Brown comes back and whether the ins for Essendon and the outs for Essendon.
Yep.
But I'm going to tip Brisbane. I think they're an extremely unpredictable side, as is Essendon. And I think Essendon actually perform much better against the really good sides than what they do against the poorer sides, to be honest. They show up against teams like Hawthorn, and then they look like they're going to lose to teams like the Western Bulldogs or St Kilda. So I'm going to tip Brisbane at the Gabba. They're hungry, and they might get the job done.
By how many points?
I'm going to go 15.
I'm going to say Essendon will beat Tom Rockcliffe by 35 points. And boy, oh boy, we're going to cop it from the Brisbane Big Footy Board this week.
Oh, I've tipped them. I'm not going to cop anything.
Oh, yeah.
I've tipped you guys.
Vinay's their hero. At the
Go
moment.
Brisbane. Yeah.
What's wrong with tipping against them?
I just think it's amazing that he's tipping against them. I think they've struggled so much this season. I think it's a very surprising tip. That's my only point there.
Fair enough.
Melbourne versus the Western Bulldogs, Saturday night at the MCG.
It's a grand old
Last
time.
time these two teams met, it was the Western Bulldogs by 20 points. A little bit of Lakshman singing up the end for you guys. What do you think, guys?
Chris Dawes.
The Bulldogs actually beat Essendon in total disposals.
Not Chris
And
Dawes?
Not Chris
I
Dawes.
do really want to get into Chris Dawes, but just one quick thing.
You make me sound like an idiot when I say that, and then you go somewhere else.
All right, we'll get into Chris Dawes then. Chris Dawes, he's a spiritual leader for the Melbourne Demons. Honestly, if you watch that game, there were moments where his teammate, all he would have done is kill a 50-50 contest by taking the ball over the boundary. And Dawes, he went up to him. Did you see this? And he really smacked him on the back. And he's like, "Yeah, come on, that's what I want to see." And all it was that his teammate had taken the ball over the boundary in a 50-50 contest in a close game. And Dawes was very, very, he was getting around. He's really egging on his teammates. He's going, "Come on, guys, we can win this." And his confidence, I said it a few weeks ago, he takes a mark 55 metres out. He does not even bother to look for a target. And that can be interpreted two ways. That can be he's selfish, he's not looking for a pass. That can also be I'm backing myself to kick this goal and lift my side. And he did that 3 times on the weekend. So Chris Dawes, he's arguably, one of the biggest driving forces for change now. As a leader, he was excellent on the weekend. And Bernie Vince, you were going to say something about him.
I was about to ask, who do you reckon the most happiest person was in Adelaide?
I've never seen a happier footballer. His grin was absolutely palpable. He was smiling from ear to ear. He said to Cam Mooney, this is one of the best wins he's ever had.
Yep.
And so, that means a lot. And it's a bit of a whack in the face to Sanderson, isn't it?
Well, to be honest, Sanderson was the one that got rid of him, said,
Yeah.
I want to trade him. He doesn't work hard enough. I want to get him out of the side. I don't see a future for him at the Adelaide Football Club. I think he was contracted for this year at Adelaide.
Correct.
But they paid him out and said,
"See you later.
We don't see a future for you here." So,
mind you, he didn't play very well. It's not like
I thought he did.
He played all right. It's not like he dominated. It wasn't like a Dom Tyson or a Chris Dawes.
He went head to head with Dangerfield, and Dangerfield may have just got the
Beat
better
him.
of him.
Yep.
But Bernie Vince had his
He
moments.
played well, but he wasn't, out of sight kind of, I've really dominated
No.
against my old side. Yeah, but
No.
it was interesting to watch. Nick, you look like you want to say something over there.
I just think Melbourne were really gutsy on the weekend, and I just think it was brilliant for the club, the supporters, the coaching staff especially, everyone, that they could get that win and that they could hold on right till the end and actually get over the line with it.
Fair call.
Yep.
The Bulldogs, boys, I watched them on Saturday night against my boys. There were 3 players I want to touch on. Luke Dalhouse, 32 disposals, 2 goals, 2 goals. He was super. He gets his own ball. His speed is fantastic. I reckon this is going to be a big breakout year for him. I think we're going to see more and more consistent efforts from Luke Dalhouse.
Yep.
Tom Liberatore's last 2 weeks have been absolutely fantastic. He's getting back to that form.
Yeah, 10 tackles,
10 tackles, 10 clearances.
a goal.
I didn't
Vinay's
think
just
he
He
could
kicked
goal.
the goal, he
over
kicked
him
the
over
goal,
here.
and he
Did he?
also had 2 score assists. So he was absolutely excellent for the Bulldogs. That inside work that he does, 17 contested possessions out of 24 disposals.
He's been copping the tag a fair bit recently.
He
hasn't
has.
Yeah.
So he should,
Yeah.
because he's so damaging inside the contest. Will Minson looks for him all the time
He does.
in the middle.
He does.
And time again on Saturday night,
Found him.
he got the ball to him.
Yeah.
And that's credit to Will Minson as well.
It is.
He's one of the better tap ruckmen in the competition.
Last year was the best.
Last year he got the most hit-outs. And well-deserved All-Australian last year as well. A lot of people look at Aaron Sandilands as the best ruckman in the competition because he gets all these hit-outs. I tend to agree maybe a little bit with Lee Matthews,
Yep.
but not to the extent that he said.
Yeah.
I still think Sandilands is a very good ruckman. However, I think Minson is better and better value than Sandilands.
Who are we tipping?
Hang on.
You're
Hang
not
on.
done yet, are you?
I said 3 players.
Oh, 3 players? Oh, jeez.
I know we're going to get through.
I thought Minson was the third. But continue.
No. Well, I chucked him in. Stuart Crammery, 1 goal in 2 weeks.
God.
You went on for him about 5 minutes in the first 5 minutes.
So have
No, I'm
have
saying,
we
oh my
already-
God, because I just don't
we already
rate Stuart
covered him?
Crammery at all.
He's kicked 1 goal in 2 weeks. I'll be very quick because we've got another
Okay.
2 games to get
Yep.
through. He's kicked 1 goal in 2 weeks. He's got to be better than that. They're paying him the big money to kick these goals, and he's not having an influence. He took 1 mark on the weekend against the Bombers, against his former club, and he's really struggling the last couple of weeks. He needs to find that form that he had early. I think he kicked 12 goals in the first 4 weeks, I think it was.
He did.
So, yeah.
That is interesting. We are going to dive right into the tips. I agree with you, Josh. Cranberry needs to lift.
1-word answers.
Yep. I'm going to say... Actually, you guys go first.
Melbourne by 1.
Where are we? I lost it. Western Bulldogs by 8 points.
I'm going to go the Bulldogs here. They beat the Bombers in disposals.
1-word answers.
And inside 50s. Bulldogs by 20.
Now, our producer's giving us the hurry up here, so we better get a wriggle on. West Coast versus GWS. It's Sunday afternoon at Patterson Stadium. Last time these two teams met, Vinay, how much did you win by?
100. Thank you very much.
Even spotless.
100. A century.
West Coast have kicked over 150 points both times they played GWS. GWS, we've seen a lot of improvement from them this year. Do we think it can be anywhere near that kind of margin this week, Vinay?
I think it could. West Coast tend to feast on the weaker sides. We saw that with Melbourne, didn't we? Yeah,
Yep,
99 point winners.
And the Bulldogs, yep.
And the Bulldogs. They do tend to go to town on these, weaker, younger, inexperienced sides. And the last 3 weeks have been absolutely disgusting as far as, goal accuracy has gone. Opportunities have been aplenty. They had 9 scoring shots in that second quarter. West Coast sort of blown out to a 6-goal lead.
I'm telling you, Jay Schultz, get him up there.
Yeah, I reckon. Because literally, West Coast the llast 3 weeks, they kicked 2-5 in a quarter 3 weeks ago.
Lost to Carlton in
cost them in the end. Sorry, that was against Port Adelaide.
Oh, Port Adelaide.
Then
okay.
against Carlton, they kicked, in the end against Port Adelaide, they ended up with 7-14. Then against Carlton, they kicked 1-8 in the crucial final quarter, and they lost by 3 points. Then this week against Fremantle, they kicked 1-8 in the second, and they lost by 19. So unless they get their kicking boots on, guys like Josh Kennedy have to lift. It's really disappointing to see that a lot of fans are pointing the finger at Adam Simpson, which really confuses me, to be honest, because if the coach is getting this many opportunities down forward, the structures are clearly perfect.
Yeah.
It's just the forwards are failing to convert. So, they've got to get that right. They've got a good sort of chance to do it at home as well against GWS. So, no excuses for the Eagles this week.
Vinay, just quickly.
Yep.
Quickly. Hence that word.
Yes.
Quickly.
Yep.
So quickly, cannot stress enough.
Continue.
Nick Nui. Are we going to see the best of him this year?
Yes, we will. Yeah, we will. I don't buy into everyone going on about how he's overrated or this, that. Come on.
He didn't have a pre-season.
He didn't have a pre-season. He's come off osteitis pubis, for goodness sake. Give the kid he's only 23 years old. People forget that he's still just a kid. He's not even in the middle of his career yet. And people are having a go at him like he's, already won a Coleman and he's just not performing at all. So give him time. He's just a kid. He will come into his own.
And I want less than 30 seconds on Eric McKenzie.
He's an absolute jet, Easy Mac. He kept Pavlich to very little. He kept Jay Schultz to very little. He has been one of the most underrated defenders in the AFL. If he was a Melburnian, you would hear about him all the time. It's because he's down at Perth. You don't get much radio coverage, much TV coverage about him.
Down at Perth?
Sorry, down at Perth, yep. But he's an absolutely excellent key one-on-one defender. Works his butt off. And he's probably the fastest key defender. He's the fastest player at West Coast in terms of 100-metre sprint. It's not often you see a big key defender, big and burly guy run that fast, so he's an absolute freak.
It's a long 30
Jeez,
seconds.
his perception of time really worries me, Josh.
GWS,
what do you reckon?
they'll have no
They're
Jeremy...
tonight.
Yeah, we are, because it's fun.
Go ahead.
There'll be no Jeremy Cameron this week. He cannot fly because of a perforated eardrum.
A perforated eardrum.
A perforated eardrum.
Tell you what.
That doesn't sound fun.
No, it doesn't. He cannot fly
They were
because of
talking
it.
about driving him, have a bit of a road trip from the start of the week, but it's not happening.
It's not happening. He's not going to play, so that's a big loss. It gives a chance for Jonathan Patton to be the number 1 forward down there.
General.
Without Jeremy Cameron.
General Patton.
Two other players who I thought were outstanding against Port Adelaide. One was Callum Ward, the skipper. He had 40 touches against Port Adelaide. He was absolutely fantastic.
Got a bit of stick tape on Pendy. Go on.
And Devon Smith. Devon Smith had 27 disposals and 3 goals.
He's a gun.
He's having a really super year as well. So, what have you added there? Perforate.
Perforate, I love it.
Well, that's what it's called. It's a perforated eardrum.
All right. Off the topic of the perforated eardrum, GWS looked pretty lackluster for most of the game, but they actually did very, very well to not get absolutely knocked out of the park by Port.
Yeah.
A hard-running, fast-scoring Port Adelaide. So 97 points, that's pretty good to score against Port Adelaide.
Something we should mention, Tom Boyd coming in this week, most likely for January.
And same with Lockie Whitfield.
Yeah.
Yep.
So and Shane Mumford may or may not. GWS have been
Touch and go.
They've been really, really.
It's been touch and go for the last month.
Yeah, that's the thing. GWS have been really, really shifty with this. They didn't announce that he had surgery up until 10 minutes before the game.
Yeah.
Then they said he'd be back in a week or two. He's missed 3 weeks. He looks like he's going to miss this one because they've got the bye.
A lot of clubs do that.
A lot of clubs do that. So you never know, but it'd be good to see Big Mummy and Cox go head to head, wouldn't it?
If you say so.
it'd be a very perforated contest in the middle. So
Choose your words better, please.
what? Mummy and Cox going at it in the middle. Oh, okay. All right.
Who
Who are we tipping your juvenile animals?
I think West Coast are going to absolutely perforate the GWS Giants. It'll be 50 points.
What are you, Willy Wonka? What do you have to say?
You can't say that stuff, Vinay.
Why can't I say that? This is
I'll tell you what, West Coast are playing pretty badly at the moment, and I'm actually tempted.
He's gone
You
nuts.
are tempted.
I am tempted.
All right, do it. If,
No.
if they
I'm
lose,
gonna
I'll
do
do
it.
100 push-ups on air if we lose.
Yeah, but you'll probably do that anyway. You're doing it before the show.
Yeah, but that's because I was very energetic before the show. But I want you to tip them.
This is the day
one
that
answer.
Josh
West-
tipped GWS
West
to beat
Coast
West
by
Coast
20.
at Patterson Stadium.
So you're not going to
West
tip
Coast.
GWS?
I think they're a chance.
Pansy.
Says you.
I've gone 2 tips against the flow today.
West Coast by how many?
Who, me?
Yes.
150.
Oh, God.
St Kilda versus Carlton. It's Monday night at Etihad Stadium. Last time these two teams met, it was Carlton by 36 points. Gents, what do we think?
I really like St Kilda's chances in this game. What's wrong with you?
Nothing, don't worry about it. Continue.
St Kilda won 14 of their last 16 against the Blues.
They've perforated them.
Oh, right. Oh, here
Jesus
we
Christ.
go. 14 of the last 16 against Carlton. We've got to get through, so let's not stuff around.
All right, children.
Come on.
All right.
Continue.
14 of the last 16 is a fairly impressive record. Not many people would have thought that.
Yeah.
St Kilda obviously started this run when they were in their premiership, or not their premiership, but their grand final days of 2009 and 10. But they play some really good football against Carlton. They wear that terrible, terrible red and black stripy jumper. The one they wore last year.
Oh, yep. The one that the horizontal bars. Yeah, they're disgusting.
They're horrible.
Right, I got you.
No Jaron Geary this week. He looks like he might miss the rest of the year. He's ruptured a tendon in his elbow simply by a hip and shoulder from Josh Gibson. So big muscles of Josh Gibson's just given him one and the tendon's gone.
Yep.
So here's a big loss. Put that together with Eli Templeton last week. You just feel that the injuries are coming for St Kilda.
Luke Dunstan, Tom Hickey.
We said that at the top of the show. Their depth is going to be tested. And for a young side, that can really hurt. And that started to show on the weekend against Hawthorn when they were absolutely belted by 145. And I'm actually very, very happy that it was raining on Saturday, because if that game was dry,
200 plus.
I could not imagine what the margin would have been.
Yeah. Carlton, on the other hand, I've had a look at them. Their first 3 games were poor, very poor. Then their next 4 have actually been quite good, to be honest.
Apart from last week.
8 goals in the last quarter in the weekend. Do we put that completely down to Collingwood thinking the game was done, or are we impressed that Carlton could come out and catch up like that?
Collingwood took the foot off the pedal. Carlton were insipid. They kicked 2 goals to 3/4 time.
Junk time.
And your favourite words.
Well, go on. Do you think it was junk time or what? 'Cause you
Yes, it
disagreed with
was.
me last week.
Yes,
Okay,
it was.
There we go.
They turned up when the game was over. There is no point turning up when the game is 10 goals adrift.
But you didn't agree with me when I made this point the other week.
What do you mean?
When I said there's no point turning up when the game's adrift, you're just piling on percentage.
Hey?
Anyway,
All right,
it
children,
was
we'll
junk
continue
time.
now.
You do agree with me.
Carlton, look, what the point I was trying to make is that they've improved. They've definitely come upwards from their first 3 weeks, which is not saying much, but still, they've actually done much better than they did in their first 3. And I think, like we mentioned last week, Mark Murphy's playing much better brand of football. Andrew Walker has had 4 excellent games in a row, as has Cade Simpson. So now they're getting some structure off, some movement off half back, which is important to any club. And I think St Kilda, Nick Riewoldt has last 2 or 3 weeks, finally clubs are working him out. His impact has really been taken away from him, which is very hard to do because he works so hard. To stop him is not an easy task, and he has been stopped. So if that continues, it's hard to see, St Kilda. The wins that they did get were when Riewoldt was getting 20 touches and kicking a few goals. It's hard to see one of their other forwards stepping up to the extent that Riewoldt does in one of his normal games. So
I'll tell you what clubs have done. I'll tell you what Brisbane and
Hawthorn,
thank you, have done. They have rotated 3 different defenders on him.
Yep.
On him.
Right.
And each defender has been fresh.
Combating a tired Riewoldt.
Yeah. They haven't let one single player run with him because if you leave one single player to run with him, they'll be absolutely
a piece
knackered.
Of meat by the end of the game. Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you rotate 2-3 defenders on him, like Hawthorn did with Brian Lake, Josh Gibson, and I think at the end it was Ryan Showmakers.
Okay.
You rotate them through, you're gonna be able to
curtail his influence. Yeah.
You can contain him. One other player I want to touch on before we give our tips and wrap up is Dale Thomas. He came up against his old side on Friday night and wasn't all that fantastic.
I loved that, seeing him come in and just the whole crowd booing him, and then
when Pendlebury put him on his backside.
There's one thing I absolutely hated from Dale Thomas on Friday night. Thank you. He had his first kick. It was for goal.
Yep.
He didn't make the distance from 30 metres out.
But yeah.
And it got punched through. He laughed off. He ran off and laughed.
Well, I think it's fair that, it's fair that he could laugh at himself because the situation was hilarious. It was the whole crowd was, like I said before, the whole crowd was booing him. There's all this, everyone's been talking about this moment where he's coming up against Collingwood for months. He comes up in something like that. It was a funny moment. He needs to just laugh that off and get back into the game and have an impact. The thing I didn't like from him was that he had no impact from there onwards.
I think the last thing he can afford to do is laugh at himself. I think the first thing he needs to do is get serious with himself and look at himself and say, you used to be an extremely valuable footballer, a weapon for one of the best sides in the AFL.
He should have been able to turn around with a moment with that much, like the fact that he laughed at himself. He should have kept that in the back of his mind and go, okay, I'm not going to let that happen again. Kicked himself up the butt and just really, really had an impact on the game.
I don't think it was a very good look that he laughed, though. He could say in his mind, SH1T.
It might have made sense in his own kind of mind, but objectively or even subjectively as a Carlton viewer, you don't want to see, hated rivals. He's missed what should have been a relatively simple goal for an experienced player. Then he comes off and has a good laugh.
Just thinks about his paycheck and has a chuckle.
Yeah, as a Carlton fan, you look at that and you think, what are we paying this guy for? We're paying him to kick goals and get touches. He's doing neither, and now he's laughing. Yeah. So, that's probably not on. And I just don't see it to be very professional. I think
anyway, you can look at that however you want, but it's the fact that he had no impact from then onwards.
Correct. That's the main point we want to make.
That's the main problem. Yeah.
Who are we tipping?
Tippy tips.
I will be tipping Carlton. It's that time of the night for Vinay here. He's getting anxious. I will be tipping Carlton by 14 points, I think. I give St Kilda a huge chance in this game to bounce back after a couple of off weeks, but I do think Carlton will win this one.
Sorry, boys. St Kilda Carlton.
Yep, who are you tipping?
I'm going to tip the Blues. You're about 20.
Yeah, go on. 15 seconds you've got.
I'm going to tip Carlton. I just think that they're going to be the better side. So Carlton by about 15.
Yep. I'm going the Saints.
The Saints?
I'm going the Saints.
They're going to come marching in.
Carlton don't play Etihad very well. The record of 14 out of 16 over the Blues has got me tipping them this week.
Well, the pansy lifts. The pansy decides to go with the
He's
underdog
backing himself in. He's ballsy enough to do it.
Says this guy.
What about him? I don't think he's tipped one underdog all year.
No, I don't
and who's leading the bloody tipping?
Who's leading? Fair enough. Yeah, St Kilda by 10 points for me. I think they'll get it done.
No worries.
Another show done.
I
think this has been our best, to be honest. Plenty of banter, plenty of laugh.
Yeah, it was good.
Very good. Love it.
Vinay's gone through about 8 glasses of water tonight.
He has. He's going to be on the toilet all night, I think. He's going to be struggling. Anyway, our Twitter handles.
Speaking on the toilet all night, the Twitter handles.
At Gyson, at J
Rickard. On the toilet, make sure you follow us on Twitter.
At VK Lakes. Our email, btbafl@live.com.au. I think we've only got the one email.
If you have questions about anything, we should mention that emails aren't just about, if you've got a business offer or something.
Inquiries, yeah.
If you've got a question about something we said on the show, something you want to know about your own side, an opinion or whatever, feel free to email it to us because we do watch a lot of footy. We do, watch it very closely and talk about it nearly all the time. It's not just when we record, during the week, probably every day we spend about 2 hours invariably,
talking about absolute
and
everything.
So a couple of people have emailed us and said they love the show. They'd love to get involved.
Even that kind of stuff. Yeah.
One day there is a chance we might have guests on the show. We might want some guest hosts. So send us an email. Let us love the show and that kind of thing. We might consider down the track as well. Definitely. Yep.
Subscribe up here.
Up there
somewhere.
Is that water or vodka, Vinay?
Vinay, who would you like to thank?
Mate. I'm a clean what?
Who would you like to thank?
I would like to thank Valiant.
Yep.
I would like to thank them.
I'd like to thank Justin Westhoff, our producer down here.
He'd like to thank Justin. I'd like to thank Valiant. Both are very thankworthy.
Both a huge help. We couldn't do the show without both of those each week.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'd like to thank the viewers. They've been fantastic. They're with us every single week.
Thanks
Send
for
us
sticking
plenty
with us,
of comments and feedback as well. I'd like to thank you boys for being with me again for the round 8 edition. It was a fantastic edition. I really enjoyed it.
I'll tell you what, if you hit the like button, Vinay will give you $50, I promise.
No.
That's
not legally binding, so I'm
it is. It's legally binding. He will.
He said it off camera.
He will do it.
How many years of law school do you have again, Nick? I forgot, sorry.
He'll do it. $50.
This has been the Beyond the Boundary. Nick, thank you for joining me. Vinay, as well. It's been a pleasure. I hope your team wins on the weekend.
Press the like button.
Unless they're GWS.
Thanks for joining us. See you later.